My name's Mark Foster, also known as FOS. I own Heroin Skateboards and Snot wheels. Well, I'm the owner. I do all the artwork, I do all the ads. I'm the art director. I'm the production guy. I do all the social media, filmer, editor.
Team manager.
Team manager, yeah. Quite busy. Got a lot of hats.
California, bro.
Should I do some tail slides on here? I was born in a little town called Bury in Greater Manchester. Where I grew up was it was definitely a working class factory town. My first job, like work experience at school, I worked in a shoe factory. I was into skateboarding, comics, punk rock music, and art. I went to art school in Burnley, and I had 2 years at art school, and that really opened my eyes to a lot of the outside world. We did trips to London, and we got to see a lot of shows and see the world a little bit. But skateboarding as well, really, going on road trips and seeing the world through skateboarding opened my eyes and made me see what's possible out there. You know, that you don't have to just work in a factory for your whole life. You get a kick out of this. Original drawings. This is all artwork that made it onto skateboards. I just sold this morning. It's the Swampy Bog Hog. That's the final draw. Might have had a little bit of Photoshop on it, but that's about it. If it wasn't for skateboarding, I definitely wouldn't be here. My cousin had one. I had a few goes and I was like, that's the best thing in the world, I want one. And then Back to the Future came out. And after Back to the Future came out, every single kid on my street had one. That ended up being the catalyst that got us into skateboarding. '15, I bought my first real board, like my first proper skateboard, which is the GNS Bill Taco. But you know, and I read comics since the age of like 12. I read 2000 AD, and then I started reading like Marvel comics when I was about 14. So I was interested in the artwork in the comics, but that seemed very different to what was being pushed at school. My dad was an artist, and so I had some sort of a proclivity to draw from him. But my dad was like, don't do art. It's really, really hard to make a living doing art. Have a trade. You got to be a plumber, you got to be an electrician, you got to be, you know, any of these other things. And I wasn't interested in any of that. That sounded terrible to me. So I fought him on that. We butted heads quite a bit. And then we laughed about that years later. He was like, I'm glad you didn't listen to me. You know, you're doing your own thing, and that's good. OG, Toy Machine, and Heroin. I've had sketchbooks for years. I always have sketchbooks. Love sketchbooks. This is the new one. We've upsized a little bit. 2023, 2024. It's gone into 2025. I dated these ones too. 96 to 98, 98, 99. This is when I first had the concept for doing a brand called Heroin. So I was working in a factory in Haslingden, and we made frozen pizzas. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I could work in this factory forever and probably be a manager someday, but it's making frozen pizzas. And then I kind of looked around and I saw like people that I was at school with who were working there full time. And I was like, no, if I've got the chance to go to art school and move to London and it's paid for by the state, then yeah, absolutely, let's do that. I have to take that opportunity. And I never thought my artwork and skateboarding would work together in any way. I never thought my art was good enough to be a skateboard graphic. I never thought I would work in the skateboard industry. It seemed like something that was like pretty far away from me. So I was just like doing art and not really understanding why I was doing it, but that seemed like a million miles away from creating a logo for a brand or something like that. So I just finished art school. I didn't have a job. I worked sort of in the skate shop at Slam, like part-time. And I was in the shop one day working, and the warehouse called and they were like, we need people to come in tomorrow and take a bunch of DVS shoes off a truck. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. I'll come in and do it. So I went into the warehouse and I helped them unload this order. And I worked there every day after that for 5 years. And then I became the sales manager. So I was doing sales for Tomieto and Zoo York and a bunch of other brands like Circa and DVS. And I'd sent a pitch to Ed Templeton for some graphics. He hit me back, yeah, tell FOS to call me. I'm interested in doing that series of graphics. I want to see the first drawings for the Toy Machine arms boards. That got run as it is, like scanned and ran as a Chris Sen board. It was Ed Templeton that gave me my first chance in skateboarding. And that sort of gave me confidence to pitch for other people and do other stuff. And Jamie at Zero got me to do some graphics. And then I've done graphics for like tons of people since then. This is the Antoine Dixon Black Jesus graphic. I did this for a board for Antoine around 2008 or 9, I think. Might be one of my top 3 graphics I've ever done. Just because of Antoine and who he was at the time. He was like everybody's favorite skater in the world. Deathwish was this like hot new company, and to have a graphic on that brand for that guy at that time was just like a real honor. So I was in the art pitching sort of game like right before I started at Slam. I was like trying to get in at all these places. And then I started my own brand, Heroin, in 1998 while I was still working at Slam. That is the first Heroin logo. I drew it when I was in hospital. I drew it with my left hand, so that's drawn switch. I slammed and I fell and I broke my wrist, and they sent me to hospital. I was in for 4 days. While I was in hospital, my lease ran out on my house. Like I didn't have anywhere to live. And then my girl was like, I don't want to live with you anymore. Like, we broke up because like she was like, I can't rely on you. You're always getting hurt. You're always like in hospital with a broken, you know, something. And I was just like, okay, I've got no house, got no girl. Like, what am I doing? And I had a broken wrist. I was like waiting for pins to get put in. I was like, fuck it. I'm starting a skateboard company and I'm calling it Heroin. All I could think about was skateboarding. I was like, it was like an addiction to skateboarding. And that's where the name came from. It was really the sort of age of the British brands that came up. It was like Blueprint, Unabomber, Death, Heroin, and they were all sort of starting to get traction, and a lot of the kids really wanted local brands. It started supporting its own scene, and it was really good, it was really strong. And I was just thinking about this the other night. We would all be out in the streets like filming video projects, and we'd always bump into different crews around, and like people from out of town were down in London and filming, and it was good. It was a really good scene. It was really healthy. Egg's original art. This is all the artwork for the egg boards. I want to have an art show with it someday. Well, Eggzilla is probably what we'll be known for. It's the 14-inch wide egg board. And there's a video of me like testing the sample out, and I say on the video, do you think we should make this? I'm like questioning myself and like seeing what the riders think. Because it was really flat, we had to use a different factory to make it, because a normal factory was like, yeah, we can't make boards that big. What are you talking about? And then they saw the success that we'd had with it and were like, oh, we can actually make boards that big. No one's seen this one yet. It's actually a totally symmetrical one. I'm not even sure when that's coming out, but I think we're doing a special thing for one of the shops that want to do it, so. It's the first symmetrical Eggzilla board. I wanted to make shape boards from like 2014, something like that, and I didn't have my method of how to make them functional back then. Daniel Shimizu was like, hey, I want one of those 90s like egg boards, and I'm like, oh geez, I hated those things. People would call them footballs before that, and I was like, okay, I gotta do a graphic for it, and I can either draw a football or an egg. And I was like, I hate football, and to me, football is a soccer ball. So I'm like, I'm not gonna call them that, I'm gonna call it an egg. I drew the original egg guy so quickly. It was really me just going, draw an egg. Oh, let's have him sitting down. Draw some legs coming out, draw like a hand, and draw a little face on it. And then like, okay, that'll do, let's run it. Some people liked it. I still think the wheelbase was too short. So I was thinking we'd have to blow it up in size and make it more functional that way. So what I did, I took the original template and I blew it up and made it 9.1. And 9.1 was insane in 2018. I took the current day Popsicle and I used the same wheelbase and the same nose and the same tail, and I used that to make that functional 9125 egg. Yeah, I'm a big believer in making boards functional. And some of our shapes are crazy, but they will be functional at the end of the day. Like the Exilla, it's got a 14 and a quarter wheelbase or a 14 and an eighth wheelbase on some of them. So it's not like this crazy longboard where you feel like you're on a snowboard or something. That's Paul's egg. We did a little one for Paul. It ended up in a little bit of a different graphic. That was a dragon egg for last year's Chinese New Year. Being unconventional has led to success, you know? Not trying to just do 825s like what everybody else is doing, you know? It's a little boring to me. These guys are my helpers. They're not shipping out of here. But yeah, we got all the hats, and then we got all the wheels, stickers, bunch of little stickers. I wanted to make Snot because Dead Dave didn't have a wheel sponsor. That is the simple answer that I can give you for that. We had finished making Earth Goblin, his Earth Goblin part. Nobody was really like trying to help him out, and I was like, well, Dead Dave's the best, so I'm gonna start a wheel company, and Dead Dave's gonna be the first rider. And then Jake Snelling like came along. He was like another guy who didn't have a wheel sponsor, and so I was like, yes, Jake, Dave, that's a good start, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But that's why I started it, and running it out of my front room, and yeah, having fun with it. And it's all by size. So these are the 45s. We do like a little tiny 45. Got 48s, and then they go all the way up to like a 63 down there. Skateboarding fails when it's like, hey, look at our guy, he's way better than you. And I think we have to make it accessible to everybody and go, hey, look at our guy, he's having fun. With heroin, we can never sell out because it's called heroin. And you know, we already have problems with that. So it's never gonna be on the Olympics. This guy rides for heroin. It's never gonna be this sort of mainstream thing. And I always wanted it to be like a little smaller brand that's like cool. You know, I never wanted to sell out and have it in all these like huge stores and whatever, right? And with Snot, you can't even take it that seriously because it's got such a fun, cool, like goofy name. I think I'm most proud about the fact that I didn't ever stop progressing, and I didn't ever, like, I feel like I'm better at drawing now than I ever have been. And I think that's something to aim for and to achieve. Like, and I want to be better at drawing than I am now. I want to keep learning, and I want to keep doing art as good as I can. And I don't think I took my foot off the gas, ever really.